dark of the night, whispers of deceit.
Shadows dance on the walls.
Secrets they repeat. A shadowed figure
with eyes full of light.
Hiding truths in the shadows where no one dares to pry. Uncover the truth, let the lies come undone. Peel back the layers until the light is shown. Uncover the truth, let the shadows run. Break free from the chains and find the sun. Uncover the truth in the dead of the night, where secrets lie hidden like a whispered bite. Uncover the truth in the dim of the light, where betrayals take.
And yes, here we are for Bloodlines and Betrayal. I am your host, the best podcast host in the universe, Steve Cully, and with me, he's saying yes to greatness, Coach Schumann, and we are talking about the doomsday murderer, Lori Vallow Daybell. And it is just a crazy, crazy crime spree that spanned several years before she was even caught.
Crazy.
Well, I think, the Mormons are a little different. I think that has something to do with it, too.
Definitely.
She was born as a beauty pageant, and she got married very young, and that's when she had her kids. She in her first marriage, she gave birth to Colby, and then Tylee, and the only surviving member of the family right now is Colby. Her husband, Ryan, they divorced in 2005, and they had a very vicious custody battle, which showed her propensity to lie, because she accused him of sexually assaulting both children, and the guy fell completely out of the picture. And her brother, Alex Cox, is also part of this, because he got involved later on. He attacked her first husband because, again, the claims that she was telling him that he was abusive to the children. And he ended up serving 90 days in jail. And so this is what's also crazy. In 2018, the first husband was found dead from apparently cardiovascular disease. So Lori's arrest, like every one of the husbands, there were issues with. So after this happened, and before the husband died, she remarried to Charles Vallow, who was great. He loved her children, and then they adopted JJ Vallow, because he was part of the family. I believe Lori's brother was a drug addict and couldn't take care of him, so they adopted him, and he loved the kid. The kid was autistic, and he took him on, and they were very, very close to the grandparents as well. So it was Tylee, Colby, and JJ. So then what happened, she started to act strangely and was having an affair. She got into the doomsday prophecies by a writer named Chad Daybell. Chad Daybell was, he went to BYU. He was also a Mormon. He was into journalism, and, he worked for a newspaper, and then he started writing religious novels, and she read them, got into them, and then went to a book signing. That's how she originally met him. She went to a book signing, had her book signed by him, and they started having just a relationship, talking about the second coming of Jesus, which Chad was trying to convince people he was a prophet in the second coming of Christ, and the apocalypse was upon us.
Wow.
And that's what was written about in his novels. And he claimed this all happened because he had 2 near-death experiences, which allowed him to have these supernatural visions that he called beyond the veil. And a reoccurring theme in his writings were it's supernatural voice giving him instructions and advice to him or the characters in the books. He says, and he basically said that he doesn't fictionalize any of the events portrayed in the books. They really happened. But he puts them in there and he tries to show them in a different aspect, but everything is true. So his religious beliefs became very, very hardcore extreme. Lori Vallow also bought into this and became extreme. And the first part of the plan, Chad was married at the time and he had children, and they basically conspired to murder Chad's wife, Tammy Daybell. She was 50 years old. She was in good health. There was nothing wrong. And he came home and apparently said she fell and died or whatever. And they didn't do an autopsy because it looked ordinary. So she was just buried and nothing happened after that. So in 2019, 2020, Lori actually got arrested for desertion and non-support of her children. Charles Vallow was a loving husband, loved being with his kids, and he was having terrible, terrible times getting his kids, knowing where they were, what they were doing. She would often be late to pickups or just not show up. And that was a huge issue with them. So, Lori and Chad believed in reincarnation. That was one of the big things. And they believed.
Is that part of the Mormon religion at all? I'm not sure.
It's not. It's not accepted by the LDS Church. But Chad told Lori that they had been a couple in separate lives. And they actually lived on separate planets. And Lori had lived 21 separate lives. So she believed all this, hook, line, and sinker. And Lori eventually told people that they were going to get married because their fates were sealed, because God had told Chad that he was supposed to marry them.
Right.
So Charles Vallow ends up being murdered, and it was February of 2019. And it was just the police did a very sloppy investigation. It was in Arizona, and Lori had left to take the kids to school, and her brother, Adam Cox, came over to the house.
Okay.
And he said that an altercation occurred. Tylee, the daughter, told police that she grabbed a baseball bat after she heard Charles and Adam arguing. Charles took the bat away from her, and she ran away with JJ before the shooting. So Cox claimed that Charles, who was nonviolent, never did anything, never had a traffic ticket, came after him with a bat. And he had a mark on his head, but it was very, very superficial. He claimed that he shot Charles in self-defense. And what's also strange, they didn't call 911. Alex called Lori and told Lori what happened. and then he waited 45 minutes before he called 911. And they investigated it, and no charges were pressed. So both spouses were killed in the matter of 2 years in really suspicious manners. Tammy Daybell just dropped dead. Chad Daybell, Lori, Charles Vallow was shot by Adam Cox, her brother. Tammy Daybell died suspiciously. And, this is in Arizona. They're not really putting two and two together. And after this happens, 2 weeks later, Chad Daybell marries Lori Vallow. So now it's Lori Vallow Daybell. They relocate from Arizona to Rexburg, Idaho. And Alex Cox moved there as well. Alex is the brother who did the damage. And also during this, Alex Cox dies.
Wow.
And that was suspicious as well. It was allegedly from natural causes. She was not charged with his murder just yet. But it was just the timing of everything. The death of Tammy, the death of Charles, Adam Cox dies. Now it's Lori and Chad in Idaho. So the kids were last seen September 8th, 2019 at Yellowstone Park. And after that, they were not seen again. And Lori was, the grandparents wanted to see the kids. They called. Lori would always give them excuses. This went on for months that the grandparents couldn't see their kids. So the grandparents finally called and made a missing person report. And Lori and Chad had gone to, I believe, so they went to Hawaii at the time and were there. And like nobody knew where they were. And they were, they showed them, there was the media that was following them when they got off in Hawaii, asking where the kids were. And she said, "Oh, I know where my kids are. They're with my friend." None of that was true. And Lori had called one of her friends and asked her to lie for her. She said, "If the police call you, tell them that you have my kids." And she thought that was very odd. She was just trying to find out what was going on. And she wouldn't tell her anything more. So she told the police that. She said that Lori called me. She said to tell you that I have her kids. I don't, and I don't know where they are. So the police were looking for the kids, and they were saying that they know where the kids are. They're safe. Everything's fine. Even the son, Colby, was with the grandparents and pissed off that they weren't telling anyone where the children were. They even said, "Just return the kids. You don't have to. If you don't want them, we'll take them." So in January of 2020, they were served with a court order requiring Lori to physically produce Tylee and JJ to the Idaho Department of Welfare or the Rexburg Police Department. And the next day, police seized the couple's rental car, searched that. They searched their townhouse. They found Tylee's debit card. They found JJ's iPad. They were confronted over the disappearance by reporters, refused to answer any questions. And then I believe that was shortly after that is when Alex Cox died. The one who murdered Chad Daybell. And his death, again, was attributed to natural causes, blood clots, and high blood pressure. So the Daybell's ex-wife's family was pushing for them to exhume her body and do an autopsy, because they buried her so fast and it was ruled accidental. So Lori never produced the kids. She was extradited back to Idaho. She was charged. She didn't get charged with murder right away. She got charged with felony counts of desertion and non-support of dependent children, 3 misdemeanors. Her bail was $5 million. And then she was extradited to Idaho. They tried to get further bail reduction. It wouldn't happen. They were trying to use it as leverages to find out where her kids were. Chad was not arrested. He returned to Idaho, and he was trying to convince Lori's family to put up their home to get Lori out of prison. And he said that Jesus told him that. He's like, I compel you. Jesus told me you are to get Lori out of prison. They, of course, didn't do that. And they could tell he was obviously manipulative and lying. So they initially did a search on his house, and they found nothing. They searched his house, found nothing. But
That's crazy.
Lori continued to communicate with Chad while she was in prison, and they talked. And police were just stumped, like, how could these two kids just disappear? So finally, on June 9th of 2020, the police got a search warrant for the backyard of Chad's home. And he's there. You watch him. He calls Lori immediately. He's like, Lori, he's like, yeah. She's like, how are you doing? He's like, not good. The police are here. They're searching the backyard. She's like, oh, okay. I'll pray for you. And he's like, yeah, I don't know when I'm going to talk to you, but
Right.
I love you and whatnot. So they found the remains in 2 unmarked graves where, the Daybells would bury their cats and dogs. So as they were starting to unearth the bodies, he fled from the scene. He drove off, and the police followed him and apprehended him. And it's crazy how they found this. They searched the property only after Alex Cox died. They tracked his cell phone, the geofencing on his cell phone, and it led them to Chad Daybell's property in his backyard. So that's how it pinged right there in the middle of the night at Lori's home, and then in the morning at Daybell's home.
Wow.
So the FBI also got a text conversation between Chad and his wife that had died, that he had shot a raccoon in the backyard and buried it in their pet cemetery. And they found it very suspicious because this was during the day and raccoons are nocturnal animals. So they did DNA testing and they confirmed the bodies were of JJ and Tylee. And it was unbelievable. It was all over the news. So the prosecution dropped the two charges against Lori related to desertion and non-support of dependent children, charged her with obstruction of justice and concealment of evidence regarding her children's remains. And then Chad was indicted on conspiracy to commit first-degree murder for the deaths of JJ and Tylee. Now, it's not known whether Alex Cox did the murder or if Chad did. Tammy's body's exhumed. They find out JJ and Tylee died from asphyxiation, and Tammy ended up with the autopsy as found of dying of asphyxiation. Chad Daybell, Chad Vallow, Charles Vallow. Lori ended up being charged in murder for him because Alex Cox committed it basically on her command. That's what she served trial for recently. So it has been trial after trial after trial. They had jury trials in Idaho, and they both initially Lori was found incompetent to stand trial because of her beliefs. And then finally in 2022, she was deemed competent to stand trial, and she was convicted. Chad went to trial. He was also convicted. Lori did not end up getting the death penalty. Chad did. Chad got the death penalty. But again, it's just a trail of deceit because Tammy Daybell was murdered as a result of this. Charles Vallow was murdered as a result of these two. These two kids were murdered as a result of these two. And now she's going on the trial. She's going on trial in Arizona for, I believe it's her brother-in-law. It was the attempted murder of Brandon Boudreaux. Brandon Boudreaux is the estranged husband of Lori's niece, Melanie. He was shot at from a Jeep while driving home in Gilbert, Arizona. The bullet missed his head by inches. Because I remember this. They showed the video when he called police and the body cams. He's like, fuck, there was a bullet that just came near me. It was from a Jeep. The Jeep drove away, but Boudreaux gave the license plate number, and the license went back to the Jeep being registered to Charles Vallow. But Charles Vallow had been dead at that point. So Lori and Alex became the key suspect in the attempted murder of Brandon Boudreaux. And I believe he may be the father of JJ, who was a drug addict that they gave over. So Lori, she was convicted in Idaho, and because she already has like 3 life sentences, the murders in Arizona, Tammy Daybell, and I believe Charles Vallow, she decided to represent herself. And that was, well, I mean, she basically had given up at that point. She knew that it didn't really matter. She wasn't going to get the death penalty. She had nothing to lose, but she was just a complete shit show representing herself. She wanted to call witnesses that had no connection to the case, to the murders. So she yelled at the judge, which is hilarious. She tells the judge, I have a First Amendment right of free speech. I have a 14th Amendment right to be able to defend myself. And she's trying to tell the judge how to do his job. She asked the judge to recuse himself several times because she's like, you're biased against me, or you don't like women. You're a misogynist. And it was all on court TV. And Colby, the only surviving son, I mean, he was lucky because they found a list Chad Daybell made of the demons in the family. And Colby was listed as a demon. Colby had it rough as well. He got charged after the Netflix documentary came out of sexual assault against his wife. And he had just had a newborn baby. He's also of the LDS faith, and they ended up separating. And, you know, he had his struggles as well, I believe, with drugs and alcohol, and he's starting to come around. But he gave a powerful victim impact statement last week after Lori's trial ended, just saying how, you know, we had a big family, a happy family, and you completely destroyed everything. My uncle Alex is dead. My father Ryan is dead. The other man who adopted me, Charles Vallow, he's dead. Tammy Daybell, she's dead. And then most importantly, my brother and my sister, JJ and Tylee, are dead.
Were there any controversies or conspiracies around it at all?
No. The only conspiracy was
crazy killer.
The only conspiracy was they let her stay free as long as they did. Because, like I said, the last sighting was in September of 2019. They didn't search Chad Daybell's property until June of 2020. So that was the only issue. Like, why did it take them so long to do that? Why was there any reason to kill an 8-year-old autistic kid and a 16-year-old daughter? It didn't make any sense. I understand that Chad really, you know, they had a podcast and he would come on and talk about the apocalypse and doomsday and how he and Lori would be the new, you know, Jesus and whoever and run the new world, and that it was coming soon. They would often go to grocery stores and buy supplies like water and everything to prepare for this apocalypse and this doomsday. And I mean, even he as a writer was nothing special, but there were people in the community that bought in to, you know, there's a lot of doomsday believers, just as there are people who believe in aliens. So, and it's just funny how it's still continuing to go on. She's got her trial coming up and she's representing herself again for the attempted murder of Brandon Boudreaux. And when, you know, after everything, they give Lori Vallow a chance to speak. She expresses zero remorse. She says she did nothing wrong. And she says that I am going to live again in heaven. Heaven is a wonderful place where you can do what you want and everyone's happy and loving. And our bodies are just manifestations. Our souls are in our bodies and our souls will go to heaven, and mine is going to heaven. I've done nothing wrong. She didn't apologize to anyone. So it was troubling to watch, and it's going to be interesting to see her next trial as she has the same judge in the same courtroom trying to defend herself against these attempted murder charges.
Unbelievable.
It is when you see the toll of death that has come from everyone. It's from one family.
I can't believe that she got away with it for so long.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's surprising, it's shocking, it's sad.
Well, they even said when she came back after Charles Vallow was shot, she wasn't crying, she wasn't upset, she didn't show any emotion. and they were separated or divorced, but she showed no emotion for it. She took the kids to Burger King after finding out their father had died. And the daughter, Ty Lee, was the only witness to it. And police believe that Lori coached her to say that Charles came after Alex with a bat. And they had to tie up loose ends because Alex knew, obviously, that Lori put her up to murdering Charles. And Alex played a key part in Ty Lee and JJ being murdered, because that's how they got the evidence from his cell phone records. So he had to go. And Tammy Daybell, Chad's ex-wife, or Chad's wife, had nothing to do with this at all. They just could have got divorced. But instead, she fell and he found her. And the police took his word for it. So it's just one of the strangest serial murder cases you'll find. It's one of the rarest. I other than Eileen Warwitz, she's the only female serial killer that I know of. But she had a brutal life. She was a hooker and everything.
Oh God.
Lori Vallow had a great life. I mean, she was a beauty pageant model. She was on Wheel of Fortune. She was stunning. And people are afraid of divorce because of what they may have to give up. I mean, she was a female, so she would have gotten everything. Yeah, I mean, it was in just the disappearance of the kids for so long, and it was on the news night in and night out. Lori, where are your kids? Lori, where are your kids? And they had been dead since September. And meanwhile, they're off in Hawaii. And they got married, her and Chad, without even telling anyone in the family.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. It is crazy.
I have to run.
Yeah, I know. Go get your kid. You
want to keep going, or
no? That's pretty much it. I mean, she's representing herself. Watch the Netflix documentary. It'll blow you away to see the trail that they left behind, just to see how they. I mean, if anyone came today and said they were Jesus Christ, how would that be proven? I mean, how could you believe that? I know people want to believe. And when someone like Chad Daybell says that he is a prophet and he talks to Jesus Christ, how do you prove it? How do you know? And you're a believer. How would you believe if someone's a prophet? Or how would you believe if someone was telling you the apocalypse is coming upon us and it's real?
No, you really have to test that theory in some way, shape, or form, and I don't know how you would test it.
That's what I was thinking, because anyone who comes and says that is going to get thrown in the loony bin. So correct. I don't know. I mean, unless you walk through a wall or get shot and resurrected, I don't know how they would be believed anyway. But this just got way out of control. They had family who would have taken care of the kids. None of it could have happened. It could have been avoided.
It's crazy.
And it is fucking crazy. That she was batshit crazy. And if you get a chance, watch some of her trial. It's on, if you go on YouTube, Google her or put her name in and listen to some of her questioning of witnesses, listen to her argue with the judge, listen to her after all the witnesses give impact statements, victims give impact statements, listen to what she says. And it's all about her. She says nothing to them, no remorse. It just amazes me. I mean, I would just think at that point, if I'm serving 4 life sentences, I would say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the pain I caused you. Instead of taking it, I mean, it doesn't change anything, but it would maybe give them a sliver of satisfaction that she would admit to it.
Oh, all right. I gotta go.
All right. Well, remember, when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Take 2 oranges, throw them right back at Lori Vallow Daybell.